Okay, so just a quick vlog. We had this announcement the other day from the Biden administration about the mass vaccinations and all these really draconian measures that will not pass constitutional muster. Probably won't even, who knows if they'll even make it to the Supreme Court. Probably will, and so this plan will never be implemented. We all know that, and we all know that it was just a political thing because of his failing because of the Biden administration's failing poll numbers. So we all know that. I can still understand the extreme reaction among some libertarians, because just the mere concept that the government would propose this, and just the fact that so many shit liberals and neoliberals would support this measure, despite the fact that the science doesn't really support the necessity for this measure. It is pretty incensing to a lot of people, including to me. But I think that we got to look at this from a different angle. This is actually a good thing in a lot of ways, because what it's showing me is just how dysfunctional and incompetent our government is. Just how and you know, we had Afghanistan a few weeks ago, and that showed us that our military basically is a paper dragon, that our whole national security apparatus is corrupt to its core, and that's a good sign in case we actually need to defend ourselves from them in the future. So I think that's a good sign. I mean, the fact that a bunch of they call them goat herders over in Central Asia, I'm sure a lot of them are very smart and very brave and very strong people, so I don't want to just downplay them as goat herders. But the fact that, you know, people we would call relatively primitive were able to defeat the most powerful military in the world says a lot about asymmetric warfare and its effectiveness, and it says a lot about what a paper dragon our military actually is. So that was a good sign for those of us who want to see decentralization. I don't want to see violent decentralization, but I think just the more that the government delegitimizes itself, the closer we can get to our end goal of decentralization, and become more like what this country was intended to be. All right, so I would say that that was a good sign. And this little episode here, I liken it to the government throwing a little tantrum like a little toddler, and it's very the incompetence, the dysfunction of the federal government is really on full display here, and every little episode like this is going to bring more and more people to the side of decentralization. And so I would like to see more episodes like this. For all I care, okay, let Biden get reelected for another 4 years. That's probably what it's going to take to get everybody on the right side of this issue. Okay, as I said in a different video somewhere, that Trump is not going to be able to fix the federal government. This decentralization that is inherently baked into our system is very unique in the world. So a lot of people would think, oh, if the federal government falls apart, then the whole country falls apart. But the United States is very unique in the sense that it has the 10th Amendment and the Federalist system and the checks and balances of the federal government itself all wrapped in there. And I think it really could it could easily protect us from the fate of many more centralized systems. And I was just watching a video with Neil Ferguson in it, being interviewed, and he says essentially the same thing. And I've been very optimistic ever since you know, the election. And you know, the election was another sign of the continued delegitimization of the federal government. You know, we don't really have to do much to actually bring about the goal of decentralization. All we really have to do is sit back and wait it out, a lot like what the Taliban did. And that problem, which is the federal government patently corrupt, with 3 million government workers all self-interested and corrupt themselves, with this whole just deeply corrupt apparatus, okay, it will delegitimize itself over time, and states will begin to think more locally and start to ignore federal edicts, and then eventually the icing on the cake will be a monetary crisis, which is coming, okay? And right now the government has a lot of power because it can spend unlimited amounts of money, and that's the danger of having a system in which the government can literally spend infinite amounts of money. Infinite amounts of money means infinite amounts of power, but that ability to spend infinite amounts of money through deficit spending is only temporary. Not even Keynes thought that the government could run deficits in perpetuity, okay? Modern monetary theorists, they don't understand basic economics. So if they come into power, a lot of people were afraid of Yellen being one of those types of people that would come into power. So if the MMT people come into power, I would say that that would also be good, because that would bring about the monetary collapse faster, and it wouldn't be the end of the world or the end of the United States. It might actually be more like a new beginning, okay, and a return to a union of sovereign states, which is what this country was meant to be. So I think that this latest episode is just another step in that direction. It's going to further delegitimize the government, because here you have the Biden administration coming out with all these, the head of our federal government coming out with all these tough words, and nothing is going to come out of it. I mean, the media doesn't even want to talk about it that much right now. So obviously it's not going over well. I think it's just another step in that direction. So that's my little spiel for today.